I'm joined here with Rhapsody, and I know plenty of y'all are familiar who that is. And we're gonna take it a little easy today. We're gonna see what we get into. We've made a lot of progress on this next comic that we're working on together. I have a little bit of demonstration to do when it comes to the new Whips form that we have. Um, oh, hey Lolo, good to see you. Thanks for joining. Um, let's see here. Yeah, it's I'm at this point though. Feel free to join the room and start prompting whatever stuff that you guys have gotten into this week. I'm very curious to see. Normally we would be using VC Create, but ever since version 7 OREF came out, we've been using the Rooms feature in Midjourney, which is something that you can get access to by going to midjourney.com or clicking the link that is in VC text here. You'll see that there's a password on there called gnarly right there. That's just write that in there, and you'll be able to join the room. Just this gives us a little bit more focus when it comes to the stuff we make. We've been benefiting from that quite a lot. So I'm also going to see if I can hide. Are you able to hide the chat in these rooms? I'm curious if that's a thing. Um, I don't think so. That's okay if not. I'm just making note of that. Okay.
Not that I know.
Okay.
I think if you hide it, you're the only one that can't see it.
Okay. So this is what I'm gonna do to make it just a little bigger on the search bar or the prompting bar down here.
But
Hmm?
um, it might be good for your stream if you hide something that you made. That way it won't be on the stream if you
Right.
put the video on YouTube.
Got it. Yeah, for sure. I'm more just trying to make sure that there's not a bunch of small text everywhere on the video feed here. So like I'm gonna stretch this out just a little bit, um, just to just to get us a little more dedication to the actual prompting bar here, so that that is nice and big, and we see what you guys are generating more fully. That's kind of my goal with this anyway. So cool, we got it. Awesome. Well, we got a couple of things already being prompted here from Lolo Soon and Gompasta and Fungi Mancer. I see that you guys have been experimenting with some sketch illustrations for style referencing. I see Fungi Mancer doing that here. And the results look pretty rad. Like it definitely has that crayon textured, like drawn on paper, taken a photo of that drawing. All of it is kind of captured within that style reference. So that's pretty rad. I dig it. I dig it. And when it comes to some of the stuff Lolo's working on here, he's got a couple profiles that he's messing with here. Whatever stuff you've got inside this week, version 7, got it. Okay, yeah. It's a lot of times we end up prompting just whatever stuff I end up saying, which is fun. But I'm definitely curious to see if there was any projects and things you guys have gotten into. Hey Snoopy, thanks for joining. Can't make it this week, so here's a picture of a beer and a book on an occult. Oh, oh, we'll see you next week then, man. No worries. That's hilarious. Let's see. Ooh, Rhapsody says she is tired, run down, dark bags under her eyes. She's looking tired into the camera. There's a speech bubble reading. What is this? Rest? I,
Yeah.
yeah, I see you're reacting to Lolo here. Um,
Yes.
and
I was supposed to take some rest, but I didn't.
the first one is pretty awesome. I love Tired
Yeah,
Rio here. That's pretty cool.
it's
Um,
spot on.
yeah. I feel like this is like looking at looking at you in the room right now. That's funny. Um, And because we ancient's not here and stuff, that means that the event isn't going to be like triggered necessarily. So we might have some lower numbers here at the start. I'm not worried about it at all. It just means that we get a little more focus in some of the stuff that we're going to get to with what you guys want to do. So let's see here.
It'll be more intimate.
The can't get in the room says error. You and us says he has trouble getting in there. Um, hmm. It might be something related to are you able to access any other part of midjourney.com? Because I believe you should be able to find us in the list. If not, so that like if you go to chat here and you go to the lobby, you're going to find all sorts of different public, private channels. Whatever you're doing. Yeah, I was in the other room with Kiki a few minutes ago. Okay. Could be a browser based. Is there anything else at MJ website loaded? Got it. All right, cool. I'm glad you guys are helping him troubleshoot. I'll check back in with UNS and see if you were able to get in here or not. But you could find it with the Fantasy Friday room here. That's where we're all hanging out. So just for anyone that's new, I do want to introduce that we are all chatting in VC text here on Discord. So you can find that just by scrolling down on the channels here on Discord. And you'll find the stage eventually with us hanging out here. Just above that, you'll have VC text. VC text is where everything you guys chat about shows up on the video feed here. So this, we'll upload all this stuff to YouTube eventually, and you guys can catch up with the stream that way. I know it's a little not traditional in terms of like the methods that we do here when it comes to streaming directly to Discord rather than like Twitch or whatever. But this is a really fun way to do it because it gives us a chance to all be able to participate in something before anything like goes live or whatever, so we can like find the best moments and cut them together. It gives a better, more curated experience, I feel like. So let's check out some of the stuff we got going on here. I see Troll Free is working with Rio's character here. We have a couple different versions of Victor popping up here from version 6 Aniji 6. And then we have a whole bunch of stuff from our previous stream, which was focusing on continuing the fantasy series that we have. So I'll do a quick introduction of Gnarly Studios so that you guys know how to contribute to the stream. We have a separate server specifically for cataloging all of your all's characters and such. It's a little cropped now. Let me fix this again here. I'm gonna have to do this a couple times because of the way that I have this set up. But so if you go to Gnarly Studio server, there's a link to it in VC text being posted occasionally. If you join that server, you're going to find all sorts of really fun forums for us to contribute to. The character portal is the most popular. It lets us be able to organize all the cool characters you guys have been working on. And there's a whole bunch of them here. We got a couple from Alara I believe just last night. These two here, we'll be probably messing with some of them here. We got Zero and Alara contributing characters today. And then You and Us actually has a pop singer that they submitted as well. So we could probably dig into all three of these today and start adding to the character portal entries. So the character portal is super essential for making sure if you want to see your character pop up on screen, you want me to mess with it and stuff, and not just have it based on which ones are cool or whatever cool results. It's a lot more fun to submit it to the character portal so that you get to get notifications whenever someone uses your character and they like the result and want other people to see it. So definitely a great way to keep track of your characters. I have one named Vic Vermin in here, and he is starring in the next comic that we're doing. And I just absolutely love this character. He's he's technically a black slime in terms of like the actual character itself, but he's kind of an advanced one, basically. Like he's not just a simple blob or whatever, but he is in the same family as another character on the character portal, Blobby. So if you do know a character that is from our series, you can also just search them. So we, for example, can just pull up Blobby here, and boom, you have a massive list of stuff, including original comics from that feature Blobby from my Troll For You.
How comes that I never made that connection?
Just because I haven't really dug into a lot of Vic Verman's backstory and lore and whatnot, because it's stuff I'm like actively working on. But yes, they're technically the same like species basically. But the difference is that Vic is an unusual. Like he's definitely something that you would not normally see in that world, which is a complex or potentially speaking character. But Vic is actually inspired by a character from one of my favorite animated films. Actually, yeah. What were you gonna say?
The more you know.
I'm just gonna pull up this. Yeah, I'll pull it up later. I'll pull it up later. I don't need to focus on this character. But there's all sorts of fun inspiration from all sorts of different fantasy series and stuff that we've been pulling from for our project that we have. And what we've made as of last week is a new forum called Whips. That stands for Work in Progress. And the Whips forum is where you can submit your comics, your original stories, your just your character designs, whatever you're kind of working on. You can submit them into here and allow for critiquing of it, because we are a safe space for generative imagery. So like if you are submitting stuff and you just want to tell a story, you don't want an entire feed of people being critical of like every flaw inside of your imagery, you could just submit stuff to the rest of the server here. It's not really going to get critiqued that way unless it's in the Whips forum, which is designed specifically for getting and improving your skills. And so we have a couple different projects, which I'm not going to dig into every one of these because I want everyone to have like their own space and their own privacy for this stuff. But if you are collaborating and you want some help on stuff, we have a couple different projects that you're more than welcome to contribute to right now. Demon Teacher, awesome project with Lolo Soon and Legal Beagle, where they're just deep diving into this awesome series involving a teacher who is vampiric and all sorts of other demon related funness out of that. There's a lot of really great hellish imagery that you guys are working on there. Also, original art, just getting your art critiqued and whatnot is also being done here. But today, what I have done is I have submitted to this section here. This is a rather long forum here that is dedicated to just updating this one comic that we're working on together, which is called SpellBroke. And I have also updated the comic here on the website so that you guys can readily reference it whenever you need to. I'm going to link it inside of VC text for you guys. It's comic.spellbroke.com. And the key thing when it comes to that link there is that it lets us so that we don't have to like constantly refer back to our like our links and stuff whenever we just need a quick reference. You could just take a snippet or save one of these panels as your style reference in order to make stuff that goes in line with whatever we're producing today. So I have the original comic that we made 2 weeks ago, and then last week we started on this one, and I still need to make the page that actually blends these two moments together. We might work on that today, but I have a continuation of the story here, and I'm really excited to get you guys in on this story here, because this is basically slamming together all of our fan characters or all of our fantasy themed fan characters all together into one cohesive world. And this is the story of Brecky, who you can find again on the character portal. So if we go to character portal on the Gnarly Studios server and then search for Brecky, You also see her linked throughout the server because she's pretty popular at the moment. But if you click on Brecky here, you'll find all sorts of submissions for creating this comic, but also for exploring the character design as well. So there's just a lot of really fun stuff. I'm going to go into a bit of a technical breakdown eventually of the comic, but I wanted you guys to immediately get all these materials so that you can just get started with it. So if I, for example, bring this into the room that we have, like if I click on this here, we have our one of our prompts that we can pull up. There we go. That's Fungi Mancer's prompt with the giant hand. So if I now say copy this prompt, and let's go for a different one here. Let's grab one of these. I like these. Yeah. So I'm just gonna grab this prompt in full here. Seeing as Slash Show doesn't work inside of the rooms, I'm just going to now copy and paste the entire prompt into there, and you can see that it auto-populates the Omni reference, the style references, and the image prompts here. In my experience, I've had issues when it comes to working with multiple style references. I think it kind of like it sometimes muddies the image for me. And so, but the style references that are included in here are the original Phantasma style reference, which was one that we made over a year ago in order to establish a certain kind of blown out, muted aesthetic. And this is such a small image. This little thumbnail here is just kind of giving us a cartoony world that is in this somewhat in the color palette of the comic that we're working on. So what I'm going to do actually is remove both of these. And I'm also going to remove the image prompt because we're not going to focus on the intent of this prompt, which was to put Brecky in a giant hand. We are just going to show what the process is for how we create comic panels with OREF, as well as exploring Ural's characters as well. Right now, the Omni reference for Brecky is this image right here. A very cute image of her. And we essentially have a bunch, let's see, she's got a couple of descriptors here, including green poncho and boots, green boots. I focused on more making her boots more of a leathery sort of like peasant shoe. It's still a boot, but I definitely wanted to feel like all the shoes that people are wearing in Phantasma are kind of like tied together with a string at the top, like just a leather bag, which a lot of the clothes for the fantasy series so far I've noticed from a lot of people. Maybe this is just because we started with Gnome particularly, but we have this like basically everyone's wearing a sack, everyone's wearing a skirt or a dress of some sort. It just feels very peasant medieval, so like I don't mind that at all. But if we basically start to describe the character here with omni-referencing, it's going to we're basically going to see what the initial results are and then decide how much more we need to embellish on this in order to get us a reliable output. And I tend to work with prompts that are like animated film and whatnot. So like, for example, it says here in a comic cartoon style. I tend to more look at it as I want to see the final product in like represented in the imagery. So if my final product is that I'm going to make an animated cartoon, then I'm going to prompt for that. I'm not going to prompt for a storyboard or a sketch of it, for example. I want to see as close to the finished thing as possible when it comes to generating stuff. So if we do something like animated film depicting a green hair girl in a frog poncho, and then we just basically start to describe what we want to see in the scene, because we already set the aspect ratio to 69, which is going to give us a film-like aspect ratio, we can basically recontextualize this to whatever we want. So let me add one more thing, which is put fantasy in here. So animated fantasy film depicting a green-haired girl in a frog poncho. And we basically we basically just put her in a scenario that makes that complements this Omni reference here. So a lot of times I've noticed that it's raining because of this particular reference, right? Seeing the raindrops in there, Midjourney's able to understand that this is supposed to be. That's what I mean. Usually when you say poncho or rain jacket, it's going to give a reason why she's wearing a rain jacket, that kind of thing. So I'm going to say that this is a. Let's just give her a little bit of a random scenario here. That let's just say a brick from the castle wall falls onto her head. Slapstick comedy moment. And let's just go with that. Let's see what happens if we have this. We can also apply a couple parameters to this to kind of diversify the results. We have chaos. We also have the EXP as well, which I'm forgetting right now. Is that for experimental or exponential? I forgot.
Yes.
Experimental?
It is experimental.
Got it. Okay, cool. So if we are...
Or experience, if you want to say so.
experience. And you can see that with just running the Omni reference by itself, the style is going to diversify heavily while most likely respecting your character design, as long as you retro engineer some aspect of the character's design inside of your prompt. The way I do it here is green haired girl in a frog poncho. That's the retro engineering of Brecky here, and she comes out really reliably. I love a lot of these outputs here. But in terms of everything from the exact tones of green, like her color palette, to her eye color, to all sorts of little details, sometimes they get mixed up. They don't really look the same on every result, and we control that using style references. So we actually have a result from Rhapsody here involving her character Roxy, who's right here. I love Roxy. I love Roxy so much. But she used a style reference of the comic, which is what we're going to be doing today. We are going to pull style references from the pages that we had finished already in order to continue the story. This is how I made all the panels that lead up to the new comic, which I am reminded now that I should probably post the comic inside of VC text as well for you guys. But by using the comic as a style reference, look at what it does. It creates a moment that matches the scene of both of what's described in the comic, but also, in the prompt, but also in the style of the comic. It gives us a world or a moment to explore entirely based on the arbitrary rules that I had set up inside of this style reference, including the panel bordering, how thick how thick the gutters are in the comic, the speech bubbles and how they're laid out with the shadows overlaying them. All of this has an effect. And sometimes it's a really positive effect, like you could just keep deep diving with that style reference as deep as you want to go. Other times it's very circumstantial and you're just trying to solve a very particular problem. OREF is amazing because you can basically take not just the character design, but the entire world that they are set in, and use that as a point of exploration. So right now with Roxy here, the Omni reference is of just her, which means that we can recontextualize this any way we want. But if we take one of these results, particularly just one of the panels from this result, and then use that as the Omni reference, we are not only exploring the character, but also the world that they are in. So it's essentially like a two-step process when it comes to expanding on these moments, right? So like if I very quickly upscale these three here, you're going to see that there is an element of this is recurring. You see this happen a lot, where it's of no surprise to me that the background looks the way that it does here, and the comic that we have also looks that way. Not just because it's borrowing the style references, but if you look at specifically the rocks and the grass and the way that it rendered those, it's reflecting that same sort of logic as we keep what is it, as we keep prompting with these style references. So basically, even if you don't like everything that you get out of it, you're going to find yourself doubling back a lot, in my opinion. What were you going to say, Rhapsody?
I love that about OREF. It just gives some level of location consistency that makes things so much more easy. And yeah, with Roxy, I just thought maybe she's out in the woods next to where the comic is at the moment placed, gathering some ingredients. Like, it's the same location. You can really feel it.
You can really feel it, yeah. It's super impressive, and like the thing is, like even with these results, where it's like you use the different style reference, this is an example of where you adapt it and you go, is this the direction that I liked, or do I want to double back and use the previous style reference? Am I getting too much or too little of the results that I am looking for? Because it's about continuity. It's about bringing certain aspects of the world to be persistent through your results. And a lot of times we can balance that with parameters like style weight and all that sort of stuff. But I tend to find myself really, really doubling down on just specific style references and going, yep, this is the world we're exploring today. Let's just see how deep this rabbit hole goes. Right? So I have a couple of up-resed versions of this result of Roxy here. And what I'm going to do is I am just going to take... Yeah, I like this one. Let's take this one, and I'm just going to use the snipping tool really quick. I'm not even going to export this image. I'm just going to take the snipping tool and snip this one panel, the first panel you see here. And now we're going to double back up to where we had this one here. Let's use the use button. Use will just take every aspect of your prompt and throw it into the prompt bar here. And so I'm just going to replace Roxy's Omni reference, which is of her character design. It's a very reliable Omni reference of her character reference. We're going to replace that with the result that includes a background. Okay. And now, I'm not going to change any other aspect of the prompt. We're just going to see how this looks. To see if it either expands on this moment, including like the background and environment that she's in, or if we are, or if we should go back to just the standard image without a background. I mostly just want to show what happens when you include a background, because if you break away from it, you're going to notice that eventually you'll get to a place where maybe it doesn't look the same, it doesn't feel like the same, and just use your previous references at that point. You've gone too far. But we're almost done here. I'm rendering everything in turbo mode, so everything's going to go real fast for me. But I want you guys to look at this. Just look at this. Look, we have her now turned, and that hillside is still there. It's like she turned in this moment, and now we have two separate panels that can work for this. Just to give you guys the reference of what the original one looked like. There she's there, and now she's turned and looking in the other direction. Yeah. That's awesome.
On the left side, she has something like, I already plucked all of these, and then there is like hills and mountains, and she's looking over there, and I really have to go over there.
Yes, and it's preserving the world rules in such an amazing way, which is, look at this. The plot of this, by the way, is that Brecky finds Fungalmancer in the forest, and when she's running away from him back to Phantasma, the city, the castle city, when she runs back to him, she trips and falls down the hill from the forest into an open plainland or grassland. Look at this. Look at the center panel there. It is exactly the same rules. The forest is on the top of the hill, and you could just imagine a little girl in a frog poncho rolling down that hill, and Roxy notices, just on the corner of her eye, and it's just like, well, that was a thing, and then walks off and continues with the rest of her day.
You could actually probably take the panel from where she's smacking into Vic, and just creating the same thing from a different angle with an OREF to fit in here.
Oh yeah, and not to mention, we could also use this as a with layers and just throw them into there and prompt them on top of each other. So we might get into that, but I really wanted to emphasize how cool it is to see this moment that I've been working on for a week Now, reflecting where you could see the rocks, you could see the hillside, you could see the trees on the top. My logic for the world being built like this is that this is a couple hundred years, probably 200 years after the founding of the castle, and because of that, it's been heavily deforested around the castle. So only the tops of the hills have them left. That's kind of my logic. I'm not 100% sure it's canon yet, but I do love the idea that we are seeing the world after its foundation of the establishment of magic in the world and all this kind of stuff a couple hundred years later. So we have some element of industrialization that has happened within a fantasy world. But let's take a look at some of the other results that we got off of this one frankly random result of swapping the OREF here. Look at that. We have a close-up of what's inside of her basket. She could look it down and be like, you already got too many of those, like Rhapsody was saying. Like, just it gives us a lot of options to explore here. But we also see what happens with the Omni reference being this specific Omni reference being used, which is if I zoom out here and take a look, the basket is not actually in her hand. It's technically in the background and very, very big in terms of the perspective here. It's being fixed for the most part by OREF, but not entirely. Look at the bottom left corner. It's the same thing. It's floating in the same place, and it basically, in order to really use this stuff properly, we have to understand that it's not actually seeing the character inside of the scene. It's seeing a three-dimensional projection of the space inside of your image, and then trying to put all the parts back together in a way that recontextualizes it as your prompt. So, if she is not holding the basket in your Omni reference, it's more likely she won't be holding it moving forward unless you really specify a focus on her hand holding the basket. So this teaches us how to make better references. Specifically, when it comes to doing moments like this where we're like, oh man, we got so close, but we're noticing a pattern here. We're noticing that something's missing or something's wrong. And so I just wanted to emphasize that. It's so cool to see that there's so much potential out of V7 in terms of this whole like three-dimensional space aspect to it that it can introduce more problems. I'm not surprised people had headaches with version 7 when it came out. Particularly just on the idea of trying to get something really specific done, that your old workflow didn't work anymore. And that makes sense because we're in a whole new realm. We're not projecting 2D onto 3D. This is 3D. This is eventually we're gonna get to the point where we can spin around our images in 360 degrees, see them from all different angles. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I feel like it's always the same learning experience with every new Midjourney tool or version. We're getting used to one version and forcing some specific amount of control on the model to get it to do what we want. And then a new one comes out and it does things better. And if the model does things better, that means that we need to loosen our control. For me personally, with OREF, it was like, trust it. Don't give it your text prompts, give it good text prompts, give it an okay image and trust it. And that works really, really well.
It does. Absolutely, yeah. And I fully agree with you that with version 6.1, it was a lot easier to just kind of run off of very simple prompts because it always gave you something cool, but I always ended up fixing everything. I would basically treat it as everything was a puppet. Everything was just the temporary position of what I wanted things to be in, and I would go in and fix all the details. Now I feel like it's kind of flipped, where all the details are not only important for the world building of what you're putting together, but those details end up being the constraints that you need to have consistency moving forward. I could rely on version 6.1 or Niji 6 to generally preserve certain character elements, but it wouldn't be able to break out of those character tropes very easily. Now we can very dynamically move these characters around inside of a 3D space, and even more so if we have information for them, including like background and all that kind of stuff, if the more information that's in your OREF that you can just visually see and go, okay, I know so much more about this character because of this image, Midjourney is going to be the exact same way as you. When it comes to predicting or imagining what can happen inside of this world, inside of the spaces that we'll be exploring. So even with this result, this is the third result here, that we have the basket on the ground. We have a believable moment where she could come back and pick up the basket from earlier, and generally speaking, multiple panels. The results of it can be a little murky. I will say that. Like sometimes we get certain loss of quality that happens because there's just simply so many frames that it tries to contextualize. I will oftentimes use these as image prompts to get full-size versions of these individual panels. So like if we really liked how Roxy is approaching the basket here, and we wanted to do a run with just this image here and not the rest of these panels, I can snippet this one here and rerun the prompt without multiple comic panels inside of it, and basically use this as an image weight to control the composition of the shot.
Yeah. There's also the option to just remix it.
Right.
Which helps a lot. Like you can remix this image with the OREF on top, and just have slight variations.
Right, and you would just
sometimes fixes things.
Yeah. Right, and so you're suggesting taking the OREF, putting it as an image prompt like this.
No, I wouldn't. No? I would just remix it as it is.
Just remix as it is. Yeah, basically, like in terms of that as well. If you do a variation subtle as well, I find that's how I explore cleaner versions of line art of whatever we're making. The remix, whether it's variation subtle with remix or just remix subtle or variation subtle, either one of them has the potential to clean up line art pretty significantly. It's just a matter of exploring it.
Yeah, the nice thing about the remixes that are also coming in right now is you can see it preserves the panels, but it places like characters differently. It gives her a different facial expression in the top right corner, and I can just choose one that I like and continue working with that.
Exactly, yeah. Especially when it comes to the multiple comic panel prompts, you're going to notice characters moving a lot inside of your results with version 7. And that's good, because why would you want the same image, 8 times over or whatever? It makes a lot of sense that we would get this little variation. This one is super cute, actually, by the way, because we have her look at like potentially picking up one of these ingredients off the ground. I love this close-up of her hand.
Yes, it's perfect.
So I just want to show this really quick. I'm going to use the snipping tool. You can use, MS Paint. You can use whatever you want for this. But I am... Oh, sorry. Woo! I am going to use just the snipping tool, but we can use Photoshop. We can use whatever image manipulator we want. I did this a lot for close-ups of Brecky's feet for the walking sequence going to Fungimancer. But let's hit the use button on this. We have the image prompt of her picking up this. We haven't described what it is yet, but we have the image prompt that we've put together here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, instead of multiple comic pages, I'm just going to remove that start and keep with a goblin girl with pale skin, elf ears, orange eyes. I'm just reading the prompt here really quick. And a witch hat and collecting ingredients at the edge of the forest. It is a steep hillside. She is wearing leather clothing and has some potions on her belt. There is a basket next to her that is filled with colorful ingredients. So if we could take this, setup here, and now reduce it down to just what's inside of the image prompt here, because remember, whatever we include as details, it's going to do its best to include that inside of your prompt. If I'm focusing on just a close-up of her hand, picking something up off the ground, I do not need to describe that it is even a goblin girl. I just need to say that there is a hand, and I could say female hand, like in terms of that, but I'm just going to say a hand with pale green skin, and anything that's not in the image, I'm going to remove. So let's see here. Collecting ingredients at the edge of the forest. Let's say that she's collecting plants, just so that we can colorful plants. At the edge of a steep hill, she is wearing leather clothing and has a potion on her belt. We don't see that, so we're gonna get rid of that. There is a basket next to her that is filled with colorful ingredients. We could keep that just to see if we can maybe have her like also putting things in the basket with this prompt. I'm just going to try to focus on her hands by specifically adding a close-up shot of a hand with pale green skin. And so if I separate that by into two sentences, we might be able to get it to be specifically only this shot. But I'm gonna aim for this. I'm just gonna aim for this. We have her Omni reference here, which is the one that includes the background, and we have her style reference, or the style reference for the comic as well. Let's see how this one looks, and then go from there. And there's already a lot of cool stuff for you guys. Wow. I see a bunch of stuff with Flora. And Flora, I'm stoked to explore. She definitely generates with glasses a lot with version 7. I will have to do some tweaking on that. But I want to show you guys just how impressive it is to use image prompts in order to take the very usually pretty rough results that we get off of the multiple comic panel results here. Like I didn't even make a correction. I just made some adjustments to what I intend with the prompt, and look what it did here. We have every aspect of that respected, including the speech bubble that's in the middle of the result here. It's a little blurry. Is that because it's still rendering? Let's see. No. Okay. So that is from the image prompt being so small. If we upscaled it, we'll probably get a better result off of that. But we could also hit use here and then add a parameter, which is image weight. So if we set the image weight to something lower, it'll respect the image weight less. So let's set it pretty low. Let's set it to 0.3. The maximum value is 3. The minimum value is like 0.01 or whatever. It's a very low number. Ideally, we are exploring the idea that this is going to be in the same space as what we've seen before. So like I'm trying my best here to see if we're able to get that quality back without having to edit the images, because I know that can be kind of a bottleneck for some people here. So running with a lower image weight will add a lot more respect of what's written in your prompt, but still guides the image.
We're getting her back here.
Yeah, look at this.
Which is cool. That's an amazing intermediary shot.
It is. This is a great way to go, oh, I found something interesting here, or just something in the rocks, and then take one of these panels of her actually picking it up.
Look at this green bubble berry.
Yeah, exactly. Just some fun fantasy fruit thing that, or flower or tea that she's gonna make. Can be. This is how I use image prompts. Is I essentially use it to lock down some aspect of the composition specifically, and the composition today that we're locking down is just a hand reaching towards the ground. And we got more and more of Roxy in there, the lower the image weight is, because she's inside of the Omni reference. But that's what's also really incredible to me about this, is that with character referencing with 6.1, it would have guaranteed that Roxy was going to show up inside of this wearing, or like being in this pose, because it's so rigid. But now we have complete flexibility of her posing and how she fits inside of this space, that we only need to run variations now to get a cleaner result. That maybe her hairline's a little different, maybe the way her fingers are bending are slightly different, but we might like it more by running these variations on top of it. Okay, sweet. That's pretty awesome demo right there, just right off the bat. I'm curious from you guys, was there anything that wasn't the best ref, but just what I had in my images? Okay, I'm gonna read this out here. Okay, I got tagged here. Actually, you consider me as a new beginner to Character Portal since I'm not a fan of an anime style. I have no such style references or mood board anime collections by today. So if you can provide me some anime SREFs to use on version 7, I can work with my character better and do not break consistency of the style of your portal. Okay, yeah, and I know that that might have been mentioned to you before too. I would not worry about style when it comes to the Character Portal and whatnot. The idea here is we actually diversify out of whatever I'm doing so that we can learn how to tackle new things in dynamic ways. Like if somebody wants to make a 1970s disco film, live action disco film with live action characters, you could do that. You could do that. You could just submit those characters to the character portal and see how they do. It is certainly true that there is a lean. There is a strong preferable lean towards anime specifically. But if we say explore your character without using a style reference and then find an image with your character that you like, that really guides the story in a way that is interesting to you, in a style that's interesting to you, I mean, then we'll just use that. I'm so exploratory. I look for things in ways where I am mostly just trying to find what is the thing that really hooks me. What is the thing that I feel like anyone else that reads this story or watches this thing is going to get hooked on, right? Because if it hooks my imagination, I feel pretty confident that I can make it hook other people's too. So now, if I look at some of these results here, I wanted to first take a look at the prompt that I ran here. Okay, yeah, the variations. So if we take a look at the variations, you see that her eye line and direction and her hair changes, but also the basket gets cleaned up in places. You can merge some of these results together. This one here particularly, I mean, clean up the hand a little bit, but this one right here feels like she found the thing she was looking for, or maybe there's like some mysterious flower that doesn't normally grow there. So yeah, it's definitely interesting to see this result here. And I see your message there, Tanner. All good. But we both got confused, and my apologies. Yeah, so it is certainly true that when it comes to the intent of what people do with either the character portal or whatever they're gonna do, you know how this ends. Yeah, exactly. I would encourage just for you to submit whatever you like, whatever is the thing, the style you're aiming for, whatever you want to do. If you got no style, that's fine. We will eventually land on one anyway. So if I were to take your character, I mean, we're just going to break away a little bit from the fantasy stuff because I'm sure that there's plenty of people that would appreciate that too. I am going to grab your 3 images here. We got her here, here, and here. This one, I mean, I'll be honest, it kind of creeps me out. It kind of creeps me out how big her mouth is. But I like the other 2 a lot. She also has Sage's eyebrows. I will say that Sage kind of has these big, thick, dark eyebrows. So I do like this character a lot. Let's go ahead and prompt with her. And I'll set her as an omni reference here. I'm going to set the aspect ratio to 16:9. And I'm curious what era you want this setting, because it looks like it's in. It kind of looks like it's in India, or like maybe a Arabic country of some sort. I can't really tell. It's Mediterranean Arabic, maybe somewhere in there. I'm curious if you are aiming for any kind of particular plot, because I haven't checked your character portal entry for her yet. Let me see here. Ba-ba-ba-ba. I see we have a couple submissions to some challenges here too, but I'm going to go to the character portal first. And I just want to see. Here we go. We got the UNS Singer. Okay. So my AI music journey started with you, and it will continue like this. Awesome. And so at this point, what I'm going to recommend is, because we just have a blank slate here, and that's awesome. I'm more than happy to work with a blank slate here. Let's go ahead and try to get her to be in let's say first that it's a live action film featuring a traveling singer. And I'll hit version 7. And we're, like I said, we're not going to have a style reference or anything yet. We're going to establish the style by doing this. We're just going to explore what our options are. If we do see a lot of similarities between these 4 results, it's most likely because in the Omni reference here, it establishes a lot of rules already. It establishes that it's a live action character. It establishes that she's probably going to be singing by some water, things like that. Yeah, you can see just how much it's just expanding the moment that's already featured inside of the Omni reference here. And I'm also encouraging it by prompting for specifically live action film. So let's take a look see here. I know there's going to be at least 2 or 3 people that are like, "Oh my god, he's not doing anime. This is awesome." It's very common for us. But look at this. This is so cool. We're able to like take this moment and say, "All right, we have her very reliable showing up in a couple of different shots in this moment, but they're all the same." Okay, like they're all like the same moment here because the Omni weight is pretty high. We have it set to 300. It goes up to 1,000. Anything past 500 in terms of character stuff can get kind of into wacky zone. But generally speaking, we have 2 options here. We can lower the Omni weight, which will give us less consistency of everything inside of the image, which is fine. Or we can start to add parameters that start to experiment and push us into weird places. So I'm going to use first the chaos parameter, and then maybe lower the Omni weight based on what I get off of this. Chaos is between 0 to 100, so let's just put 35 in there. So it's a little lower than half. And this will randomize a lot of the image, basically listening less to your prompt and more adhering to everything else that's inside of the images or Midjourney's logic for building an image. So sometimes we get like crazy camera angles. Sometimes we get more interesting poses. Looks like we're getting additional characters. It's definitely still doing live action because that's what I prompted for. But I am curious now because it looks like we got her on the boat at one point here. So let's take a look at what we got here. It's almost done. So it randomized her outfit. What?
Oh.
Go ahead.
You continue. I just saw something. I'm looking at the images in the room here, and I just noticed the quality of Fungi Mancer's generations right now, and his OREF is perfect.
This one right here?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is what you want for like a cartoon or animated character in terms of quality when you OREF something. Because OREF is really, really picky. It's capable of a lot of things in the same way version 7 is very is keeping very close to your text prompt. It's also keeping very close to your image prompts. And this is so high quality that it boosts every image prompted with it to a new level. So when you're OREFing, this is really top notch when it comes down to that.
Yeah, I fully agree. And it's coming from just like how well it's rendered, first off. I think some people are going to look at some arbitrary parts of this and go, "Oh, it's because of this." But no, it's just the overall rendering is very clean. All the line art is clean. There's the way that we're approaching shading with this particular OREF is very, very nice. It clearly defines the shape of the character in a couple different ways. I will say there's probably going to be, like, if we ask the character to walk around, it's suddenly going to turn into a bear, which may be fine in terms of in terms of aiming for the body shape and stuff. But generally speaking, as long as you're able to imagine the details of the character based on the image, Midjourney does a pretty good job of representing that. We're looking at mostly the arbitrary like the objective elements of the image. How clean the line art is going to be replicated in every one of these results because it's in the Omni reference. Like, look how good that is. That looks so good. And you know, in terms of like making his expression a bit dopier or sillier or whatever you want to aim for when it comes to this moment, that you can solve with in painting. And we'll get to that later today. But it is certainly true that that Omni reference is fantastic, and it really highlights the importance of having an emotional performance also inside of your Omni reference. So if you look at the actual image from Fungalmancer here, Fungamancer, there's an element of curiosity. There's an element of mysticism and wonder, especially wonder, because it's like looking up and just in awe could be another kind of descriptor of this. It is all going to get represented with the default values for most of the parameters. It's just going to respect that. Like if you want to move away from that expression, you probably want to prompt for specifically the I'm scared, I'm terrified, I'm you know, whatever, just to lean it in a different emotional direction. But this is essentially going to be now your default, and whatever the resting face of your character is, that's going to be what's inside of your results here. So and I'm seeing already some fun stuff in terms of like stick figure stuff. I'll dig into that later. I'd see Himbo is doing that. Curious to what direction you're going with this. But what I want to do next is take a look at Nixie. Nixie is animated film depicting a young adult goblin girl with pale skin, and I'm gonna skip on the rest of the prompt read for now. But this is super cute. It's definitely leaning. I love this one, especially. I just love the face a lot. I love the somewhat goat-like, cat-like, like pinched pupils. I love that look. It's really cool. And I see we have a handful of different stuff with Flora and some other characters here too. But I want to double back to the live action one really quick just to kind of explore some parameters with you guys while we get a couple more fantasy stuff coming in from y'all, because we're going to dig into continuing the comic here in a little bit. But I want to finish exploring the different styles here. So we have from He Is Reason, animated fantasy music video, charismatic female character. And you can see that the styles are diversifying a lot more from that by not mentioning live action film, and instead leaning towards, like this especially is it's getting us much closer to anime right off the bat. But it is something that if this is what you're aiming for in terms of trying to find something else other than live action, this is a good way to do it. They've included a profile, which is going to exaggerate this more. Stylization is going to heavily push it in a direction and do stuff like this, where it has this oftentimes like overtly strong aesthetic to it that is hard for me to edit around or to really make it my own in a way. So I rarely use high stylization, but if you just need a really pretty image and you don't really care too much about almost like the artistic methodology that was used to build it, like does it look like it was painted with palette brushes, or does it look like it was painted with bristle brushes? Like that kind of level of texture detail and whatnot, I feel like tends to randomize a lot more with high stylization. So if we, instead of using chaos here on this prompt that we had earlier, what if we used experimental instead? Experiment, and then we'll set it to something like, we'll just do 35 on this one as well. And then we'll start lowering the omni weight to see if we can go from there. I saw Gompas was saying that they were struggling with the Flora reference. And I get that. And sometimes you find like that certain references just don't work the way that they worked with 6.1, right? Flora gave me a really consistent, like curious newcomer sort of expression, and it was hard to break out of that. It was hard to make her like angry. It was hard to get her upset and stuff like that. But if we nice Lolo. But if we look at this, let's take a look at the experimental results here first. Oh yeah, no, that's definitely completely consistent. But now we have different camera angles of this moment. It almost feels like this is how you build up a music video, like image prompt or keyframes for it, is by bumping up the experimental so that it changes the angles. This also applies to the comic panel results that we had earlier too. So, for example, say let's take one of these multi-comic panel results that we had earlier. I'll do it before I did the image prompt here. Okay. So let's take a look at these 4 results from Nixie. Super cute younger version of Roxy that we're getting out of these here. But if you notice, the results are largely similar, like in terms of like her posing and whatnot. We have a couple different expression changes and close-ups of her hand here, but we generally speaking have a slice establishing shot in the middle. We have a close-up of her, and then her doing something with that basket or looking around inside of the third panel here, and they'll be randomized in their order. But the important thing is we're seeing a pattern here. So what if we hit use on this and then set the experimental to 35? Just not maxed out. I don't really like maxing out values anyway. It feels like min-maxing in Midjourney kind of causes headaches, in my opinion. But to each their own. If that's how you want to explore Midjourney, is by just ramping up all the sliders and hoping for the best. It kind of reminds me of like when you start up a character creator, right? And you just want to make the goofiest looking person. That. I feel like you get that level of result when you don't really mess with those sliders with intention. But let's take a look at what happens with just adding one parameter. I will oftentimes use one parameter at a time in order to determine if it's going in a direction I like. And just by bumping up the experimental, let's take a look at all 4 first before I comment on it. The panel layout is already completely different on some of these. We don't see 3 vertical bars, but we instead start to see different compositions within these panels. Like this one here is great because like we have the ability to have her looking up and be about the same size and composition for when she's looking at camera here. I tend to actually skip the shots of whenever characters look at camera because I feel like that's a very AI thing. Like whenever it always feels like you're kind of like interrupting a moment or well, opposite actually. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. It always feels like I want to interrupt a moment that's happening. Like I want to be there recording it and seeing that moment and maybe direct it to have something slightly different happen. But if it looks like a candid photo that like I asked the person to say cheese right before I took the photo, I don't like it. I don't like it nearly as much. So a lot of times when characters are looking at camera, I will change their eye line if I like everything else about it. But like this example here is great. I think this is a wonderful example of what it means to bump up this new experimental parameter to change the standardization of the comic panel layout, to change the context that is kind of like repeating that we see inside of these panels. This is a behavioral output. There's not like a concrete reason why this is happening with this parameter. At least I don't think so. It's just something I noticed as I was making the comics that we get stuff like this, where that top right panel, that's a gorgeous piece of art. You know what I mean? We have all the flowers at the bottom of the valley going exactly kind of, at least exactly how I want the world lore to work for this space, which is the field is open and the trees all climb towards the tops of the mountains and stuff like that, or tops of the hills and stuff. There we go. I think this is awesome. I hope exploring those 2 parameters helps out a lot when it comes to going, man, I feel like I'm stuck. I feel like I'm not getting anywhere that's useful. And experimental and chaos, sometimes combining the 2, will definitely yield you some more interesting compositions. I'm seeing some fun stuff from Nixie here exploring flora as well. That is super cute. The detail that you're getting out of these leaves is amazing. But again, it's coming from the fact that there is the multiple comic panels is generally speaking, without in-painting new shots or using image prompting like we did before, generally speaking, I consider these roughs, like drafts of the final panel that I'm going to use because I want oftentimes I'm trying to generate most of the panel, the finished panel, inside of the results. So like, for example, I really do like all this here. You are using Fungi Mancer as a style reference on top of the comic panels here. And I think that definitely is helping with some of the detail factor here, but it's also convoluting a lot of the intent of the of where the flowers are growing and how they're growing. I mean, this does not make sense for the sake of like plants growing in sunlight. There's no sunlight in tunnels, that kind of thing. It's all being forced by the context of what's written in the prompt, but also the fact that you have them in the style reference here. So if I were to now say, instead of animate multiple comic panels, if I were just to describe this as an animated fantasy film, depicting her approaching a tunnel that leads to an overgrown forest, cinematic lighting with surreal architecture, artistic angles with a vibrant flora and fauna at the sunset. Okay. So let's just get rid of Fungal Mancer's image here, just so we work off of this one image as a style reference, and compare what the difference is by not asking for multiple comic panels. Even though there's multiple comic panels inside of the style reference, we are not going to ask for those. We're just going to prompt with Flora and see if we can get something useful out of that by itself. And you'll see this a lot too with the character turnarounds, that whenever you do have like the back and the front of the character included in the same image, it can sometimes like either add multiple characters inside of the frame, or it could just kind of mess up the shape of your character. Maybe there's some aspect of it that doesn't repeat correctly, especially if there's inconsistencies between the two. We run into a lot of problems with that, where if the backside of your character includes a cape, but the front of the side of the character doesn't, or at least it doesn't understand that there's a cape there, it can lead to problems. So let's take a look at this. It seems like to me, like one, already the rendering is significantly better by not asking for multiple comic panels. It is giving us something way closer to what feels like it could be real, in the sense there's light now casting onto flowers inside of a space that to me feels more appropriate for that sort of vibe. And I feel like that happened because we took out Fungi Mancer as the style reference there, and also because we didn't prompt for multiple comic panels. But if we notice here, Flora does not look the same in all these results. I can see why you were having trouble with it, but it's also true your omni weight is really low. It's like set to 75, which is going to diversify a lot of the result here. So I'm going to try bumping that up first. For most of the comic, I use 240 or 220, I believe. But we can actually run a permutation to see how much diversity, or how high we want to make this number, because everything else I think looks pretty good. I'm not a big fan of using profiles right now. I will say that right off the bat. This is what I'm going to do. We have the omni weight set to 75. I'm actually going to get rid of the profiles because they really screw up a lot of the sort of like consistency, like understanding the parameters. I know you guys really dig some of your profiles, but it also pigeonholes your project significantly right now. Like I do not like I do not like profiles or mood boards right now. Version 6.1, I was all about it. All about mood boards, especially because it let us be able to collect all the cool stuff that we made and try to find like this like interesting medium for it. But look at how much it influenced Flora, how much it influenced the shot itself. Just by removing the profile, we already have something that to me feels more full, more interesting to me. Like that to me looks a lot more like Flora too, by the way. And it's just that she's not wearing a brown outfit. And so this is something that we can actually pull from with SpellBroke tutorials too, because we have an interesting thing I can bring in here. But I want to read this from Nixie really quick. Thank you. Was curious results with mixing images, but agree it screws with the consistency. Also playing with OmniWeight, still discovering. Absolutely. That's what we're here for. So what I'm going to do is first inside of the SpellBroke .com guide, as well as the comics here. There's actually one aspect of the prompt that I used for Flora specifically, which is a female brunette rogue wearing a brown hooded outfit and belt with a satchel. That is her summary for me that I've written up here. So I'm going to describe her as that inside of this prompt. So let's see, a film depicting a female. And I see you guys are exploring a new. Yes, I'll explore that here in a minute. But if we do a female brunette rogue wearing a satchel, what was the full thing? Let's see. Wearing a brown hooded outfit. Brown hooded outfit. And satchel? And belt with a satchel. Okay. And belt with a satchel. Okay. And everything else with the prompt is the same. I've only gone through and fixed the fact that she is wearing a green outfit in these results first. And then we'll apply a permutation. And if we need to, we'll experiment with your new Omni reference there, Gompasta. Keep going though. Keep going. I have an idea of where we're going with this. So let me get that run first on here, because I want to show you guys what happens when we can kind of make a course correction with just prompting without necessarily including like changing the Omni reference just yet. It's already looking a lot like Flora. Just based on these initial results here. But it is going to focus on everything that we've written, including her outfit. So if you have a shot that you're intending that doesn't include her satchel or her hood or anything like that, it's just a close-up of her hand, for example, like we did earlier, then you're not going to include that in the prompt. You're going to probably just apply her character art as an Omni reference. It's like, this is really cute and really cool. I love this background here. I love the kind of depth of the space that we have here, all guided based on the style reference. Very, very cool. But if we now hit use on this, I'm going to add a permutation onto OmniWeight. We have it set to 75 right now. We were able to basically rebalance the character design or tweak the character design just with the prompt itself. But now I'm going to add a bracket here. I forgot what this is called. The permutation bracket. It's like, I don't know what parentheses, but like it's the wiggly squiggly one. But I'm going to add a couple different numbers here. We have 75 already. We already know what 75 does. So let's bump up the number a little bit. Let's go to 125. I'll add a comma, and then I'll add 250. I'll add a comma again. I'll hit 350. Let's do 375. And then 500 as well. And then closing that bracket. This is called a permutation. We are essentially, every one of these that we add makes a whole new render. So we're actually making 4 renders if we do this. So total 16 images. You can see as soon as I hit enter there, it's generating 16 images. It's a very powerful way to quickly test your Omni weights, because it lets us get an idea of just how much influence the image actually has with the higher weights that we go. So let's test this up first, and then figure out what number kind of makes sense for us, and then we'll try it on a different Omni reference as well. I can see you guys are already going ham with this one here. A very, very cute version of Flora too, by the way. I do like this one. Okay. All right. So let's see. First, Omni weight 125. Very cool. Next one, 375. Cool. 500. And if you notice with the 500 one, she's almost in the exact same position in all of these. It almost seems like it's like oversampling at this point. And then what is it at 250? here. That's the first one's 250. So at least from what I'm experimenting with here, that I've gotten here, is that we are okay with sticking with relatively low numbers, but I want to see her outfit be consistent, because that's the problem with this Omni reference, is that we have a vertical belt and a horizontal belt. So we can see that with the Omni weight set to 500, it does that on all 4 results. We have the belt being respected in terms of its position, size, and all that sorts of stuff. So this is good to know with this. So I'm curious if we now take the other, like in terms of all like these results here, I think 500 is a little too high. 375 seems to be doing pretty good because we're getting 3 out of the 4 results with that satchel. So I'm going to hit use on 375. And then I'm going to swap out the Omni reference to be this new image from Gompasta here. There we go. Just by clicking it, it does it automatically. And I'm still setting the experimental is set to 50 though. So I know that we are probably getting into a little bit of wacky zone by doing that, but I'm curious how far we get just with this. So this is just switching the Omni reference. Everything else is kept the same at 375. So let's see if we're able to get a similar sort of satchel and belt, because it's not inside of this Omni reference. If we look at that more closely now, it's a modern hoodie that she's wearing, while in the other reference, she is wearing a more fantasy specific hood and outfit. So it is something to consider, that depending on the details that are missing are the spell or the prompt that you're going to have to write for the character. See, look, the outfit varies dramatically between all 4 of these results. So as much as you might be getting like a clear, consistent, like say expression or shape of her hair, especially with the bang that hangs down in the middle. The negative with this Omni reference is you actually are going to have to write more in order to preserve that more fantasy theming for this one particular reference. So if we have the cell shaded fantasy anime comic prompt panel, this all these results that are here, not only is her outfit changing dramatically right now, but I'm also noticing that it just doesn't really feel like her, right? And I feel like this all comes down to, it could be the cell shaded parts of the prompt. It could be that you have a negative prompt on here, no rough sketch. I've never used a negative prompt like that, so I'm curious if what effect that would have without it too. A very low Dutch angle with a forced perspective. Yeah, it's hard to get those cameras to change, okay, Lolo, when you're using image prompts. If you're using image prompts, it's very hard to get the angle to change because you're forcing the composition. Like this one maybe is a little better, right? But by combining these 2 image prompts, it's much more likely to give us issues. So like if we have the Omni weight, we have the style. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I am going to take out the profile. I'm going to leave your raw in here. I am going to take out this first image weight because it's not a low angle shot. And I am going to, you already have the image weight to drop down to 0.25. That's good. Stylization 200, that's fine. Combining all these style references, I'm very curious what, like we obviously get some sort of middle ground in terms of the colors, but in terms of like the choices for the composition, I'm curious what this gets us.
Just because I see the style references in there, these are from the Give Me the Lore challenge that I posted.
Right. And definitely worth exploring that inside of our server here. We have under challenges, we have all sorts of different challenges from folks. From last week we did the What Was Your Mount challenge. So we had a bunch of like fantasy themed or just fun wild mounts that you guys came up with. A fish with legs, elk, the Yeti. I love the Yeti. That's too damn cool. A golden retriever. I love Veradrosa's undead T-Rex that is being controlled by vines. That is such a brutal and awesome character. Sorry about my cat. I'm going to probably step out to feed her for a second here. because she is very old and lets me know about it every time we stream, that she can hear me talking and goes meow meow. Yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna give the mic over to Kinky, or if you're here, Kinky, I'll take a little break in order to feed this damn cat, and then I'll be right back. Is that all right?
Sure.
Okay.
Hi, how are you? My name is Kinky Kong. You may know me from such events as prompt battles or any of the other ones that I do during the week, which generally turn out to be pretty intimate. But I'm here to tell you about prompt battles, and you may or may not know already about prompt battles. But you know what? I'm going to tell you again because that's what I'm here to do. That's what I was born to do. It's what I live for. Tomorrow and Sunday, both days, we do an event called Prompt Battles. And what we do is we all prompt the same challenge for 10 minutes. We put 10 minutes on the clock and we prompt that thing. And we prompt it and we prompt it until that 10 minutes is over. And then we come back and we put our image that we like the best into something called a poll unit. Poll unit makes it so that each image is anonymous and each vote for that image is anonymous. Uh, and and we vote. And when we vote, we find a winner. And when we find that winner, or two, or three, or whatever it might be, those winners come up with the next prompt challenge, and they get a free fast hour from Midjourney straight to your heart. Um, so I put some little invites in the chat so that you can see what time it starts in your neck of the woods. I hope that you join us. Everybody there is super nice, super kind, and helpful and sweet and fun to be around. Some of us don't say a word with our voices, but we type all day, and and that's okay. You don't have to go on the microphone. You don't even have to socialize if you don't want. But we wish that you'd come and come see about us because we love doing it and we hope that you do too. And I hope that that poor starving cat has finally been fed. It's never had a meal in all of its 20 years. You can tell by how loud it is.
Yeah. It's basically, I mean, if it puts all its energy into screaming every single day that it
Right, they
needs
say it
to
burns
get fed.
calories.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm gonna turn the microphone back over to Rhapsody, who will probably yes, Celeste. We'll probably turn it back over to Victor in just a moment. But I'm gonna go away because I'm a little sick today. I hope you enjoy the rest of the show. And then the show after the show. Talk to you
Yeah.
soon.
Because we also have a show after the show that you can attend. Let me actually move here for a second. Hi. Hope you're all having fun. But yeah, as you can see, we have lots of amazing stuff on our server and a show after the show. So if you want to go on stage and talk with us, show us your projects, talk about problems, share nice ideas, that's the place to do it. I
And
see
I'm
Victor has come back.
yeah,
Welcome back. Your cat is fed.
yeah,
So
yeah.
when the stream ends, you are able to just jump on our server and directly talk with us.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We also have game nights every Thursday. I don't know if you said that too.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I
No,
just.
not so far.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, we have game nights every
Mm.
Thursday at the same time.
Yep.
So be sure to join. We've been playing Catan, but I feel like we're pretty burnt out on Catan. We'll probably play something else. I think Dominion was requested last
I
time.
mean, we both got stumped yesterday in Catan, so that's maybe why you feel burned out.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I play that game in my childhood every single week, so I'm not burned out. But we're playing other things too. We like golfing,
Yeah.
hating each other for a moment, and if like watching game streams is your thing, you can just join and watch us do that too. But other than that, our server is just perfect for all kinds of collaboration and fun things. And it makes me every week very happy to see a new face in there.
Yeah.
So consider it.
Yeah, please join. It is a really fun space, and I really, it brings me joy to be able to wake up and see all the cool stuff that you guys have been doing, and just help out and make and try to flesh them out into something bigger, which is what the SpellBroke comic series really is. It's us just trying to bring everything together in a fun way, and so at this point, in terms of exploring what you guys have been doing here, I just wanted to get the low angles here. This is from Lolo Soon. I see they did some variations of this. So yeah, this is a little bit more. I like this. This is in terms of the composition we had before, where his legs are missing in a lot of these shots. Like this is fun. I like this angle, but like look at his legs are missing. This is from the image prompts. So if we got rid of those, look, his legs are like much more fleshed out in a lot of these. I like this one a lot.
Dude, it's just a perfect addition. Wow.
Yeah, I love this one particularly. But then if we look at where the remix, or I believe, what did you do here? Actually, you said it was a varied their image, so you did a variation. Did you do a variation strong? I'm curious what you did here. Let's see. Okay, you added the profiles back, and I see the image prompt is oh, okay, it's of just this character now. It's just of the GPT result for that. I see. Cool. Um, in terms of this though, I do really like this one though. I think this one's fun. Ooh,
Yeah,
ooh.
villager, I see you stumbling around here. Can I make you an offer you won't reject?
Yeah, he's definitely a slimy guy. Definitely slimy person.
Yeah.
These are really cute. Adventure girl exploring a rocky mountainside, and yeah, this lets us establish a new style reference if we wanted her to explore a space that isn't nearly as green as the space that we were exploring before. So, like I love the results that we're getting out of this, and I'm seeing when you said comic panels again, we do see that issue of where the quality tends to lower on every panel, but we might get a more interesting composition that we can use as an image prompt, like her walking away from camera here. We can yank that as an image prompt and then generate an entire image of her in that exact camera angle. But if I now say, like, I can see that you already were going in that direction by making a new style reference of her inside of this building. Definitely lean into whatever's in the Omni reference if you're going to do that. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to take my favorite one of these. I like all these. This one here especially. I'm going to hit use on this prompt here, and then I'm actually going to double back to the comic panels here. And let's set the aspect ratio to something a bit wider. So I'm going to hit AR32. AR32 is my favorite. It just gives me that best combination of wide as well as cinematic. It just gives me a little bit of headroom in order to cut and crop stuff down. And I see Lolo Soon posted on VC Text here a combination of Blobby and Vic together. It is kind of a fun idea of them merging and meshing in terms of like color palettes, because I haven't gotten really into too much of Vic's lore on purpose. I really wanted to say that I really wanted to like unveil that stuff slowly, but generally speaking, the slimes in our world are byproducts of magic. They are they are like the result of say like you casted a spell or you otherwise performed a magical act, and it caused a like almost like a pollution around the character. That pollution adds up and turns into a slime, basically. That's the logic that I've set up for the story, is that the slimes are a byproduct of the actions of the wizards, and so
In general,
sorry, go ahead.
in general, magic tries to inject life into things in Phantasma.
Right, and there's all sorts of kind of ramifications of humans trying to create life with magic, and all sorts of fun. If you're a fan of Full Metal Alchemist and other sort of plots that explore these sort of topics, then you're gonna like where I'm going with Spellbroke. I can promise you that. I'm a big fan of Full Metal Alchemist, so the but what I wanted to show here was just swapping the style reference off of the results that we liked. Look at how much more it looked like we're transitioning now from the result that we had before, the Rocky Mountainside raw result, to the one that includes the style reference. And it feels like we are going from one place to another. And that's how we transition these scenes, is that we look at what results come off of our prompts, and then decide what style references we need to bring them into the world that we want them to be in. So back in version 6, I would have told you to expand out and try to make the scene bigger and see what like we can expand and see. But because version 7 actually doesn't have inpainting, it relies on version 6.1 to do the inpainting with the external editor. We don't really have that same capability. It'll always, quote unquote, downgrade it to a previous version of Midjourney. So instead, I recommend using the image prompt method. Find those compositions that you really like, whether you're using the comic prompt panels like you're seeing here, or you're just completely redirecting shots based off a single Omni reference. Either way, it gives us the results that we would be aiming for. So, and I see Lolo soon's making some new environments here using the style reference from the comic too. That's awesome. Keep going, keep exploring that stuff. But just to kind of finish my thought earlier about Vic particularly, he is a black slime, which is actually without getting too much into spoiler territory or anything like that, the black slimes are like best described as ink. Like they're best like in terms of the way that they flow, they move, that kind of stuff. It's like a ferrofluid. If you're familiar with what ferrofluid is, it's a magnetic iron laced goo basically, and you can manipulate them with magnets. And so I wanted that effect whenever Vic uses one of like his ability, which is basically to morph his body into different shapes and do similar things that that magic can do. That it is something unique to what to what his species can do, as opposed to necessarily as a casted form of magic. So like when he has a giant hand, it's a goo that sticks to his body, which you see in the rest of the Spellbroke comic here. If I scroll on up here. Time to make a magnet villain. Right. So if you look at Vic here, this panel is the one that really illustrates, I feel like, Vic's I wanted to introduce Vic's power in a way that was very interesting, and he literally blots out the sun with this result here. So Brecky is falling off of the mountainside here. She is separating from Vic at this moment. She says, "I hate rocks," which my partner was like, she keeps giggling about the "I hate rocks" thing. So I figured it works. But the point is that we are immediately seeing that he's able to cast this like black, larger version of his hand to grab her and then pull her back almost like a fishing line, yanking her back towards him. So what happens after this comic is basically they get close with each other, and then Vic uses his body as like a cushion for landing on the ground at the bottom of the hill. That's what happens immediately after this comic. So instead of doing that, instead of us illustrating the rest of that, we are going to double back and connect our two comics together by using either end of the comic as a style reference to build off of. And in terms of like, how the magic works outside of this, like when the wizards cast magic, they have a giant, like if they use Mage Hand as a casting thing, which we've done before, that hand floats like it's a magical hand that is casted with almost like a vaporous smoke like effect. But Vic's hand comes off of his body. It's this long goo like strand, like like Lolo did with the sticky hands. Yeah, that it because it all happens so fast in the world. I want people to I want a lot of people to think that he's a wizard, that just he can do what other wizards can, but he's not a wizard at all. He's just manipulating his body to do the same things the wizards do. So I'm kind of purposely blurring those lines because I want the people within the world of Phantasma to be confused by his existence. He should not be able to do this kind of stuff as a slime. He should not look like a person, that kind of thing. So we'll be digging into that with future comics as we keep developing more towards explaining Vic and the other characters. But I've talked about him plenty at this point. I want to move on and get us to the actual development of the comic here, because we ended the last comic with a joke of Brecky running away from Fungi Mancer and saying that he's a vegetarian. Now I need to get to the point where she's falling off of the hill here. And so in order to do that, I am going to reference the this panel right here of her falling, as well as previous results that I've put together to essentially guide our mid panels, the panels that we need to fill in the gap here. So I am going to open up Photoshop just to have it in the background, so as we collect images and stuff. I was going to share all the PSD files for this last comic, but they're a little too big. I have a bad habit of making very, very big PSD files. The total number for just the last 5 pages, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These 5 pages, the total number of space on my hard drive is 7.1 gigs for these 5 pages. So 7.1 gigs, that means that on average, we're looking at 1.5 gigs per page. And you might be wondering, how the hell do you get such big files with your comics? My Working for the Weekend series was 47 gigs. And that was over 40 panels, but under 50, somewhere between 40 to 50 panels. And the reason why they're so big is because I do a lot of in-painting. So every result that you see here, every change that I've made is in fact 3 different results. You could go into each project and unveil like versions of these panels before I had made those changes. And the reason I do that is because I don't want to lose my progress and just lose it to basically my own incompetence. I want to be able to constantly revert if I can. So there's 7 different versions of this comic that lead up to this point of what we've constructed here today. So at this point, I now that I have demonstrated that, we can also have our first preview of what I envision Phantasma Castle to look like, a bunch of competing spires from different wizards that are all competing for the highest tower. And so I wanted it to feel, at least when I was talking about this with Fran Sundblad from the Tiff and Eve comics, was that the society should feel kind of like like there's no king, there's no like ruler of them. It's just a bunch of like almost like we're trying to parody a little bit of that anarcho-capitalist sort of attitude about a lot of this stuff that's happening right now in the world of creative industries and technology and all this stuff. It feels very much like we're in the Wild West of what we are able to do as a people. So like I wanted to illustrate that in this series by essentially having all the wizards all competing for against each other. Like there's always some, and that's where Gnome Ball came from and all sorts of other things that we've done in the past already. But what I'm going to do now is reference the castle and try to get the castle to be prominent as Brecky is running, so that we see the castle, we establish at least some part of it, and then this panel's the full reveal of that castle. So I want to basically only start to highlight the top couple spires, and then we see just the sheer size of it from a distance with this panel. So we're going to reference this one as well. Let's go ahead and do all that. Let's just get into it. So let me first open up my sample here. Okay, cool. And we are going to start pulling some relevant. I already know there's some really cool stuff from you guys that I'm seeing here. Oh wow. And I'll dig into all this stuff here in a minute, but I'm gonna go with let's see here. Okay. So let's first grab inside of our server here. We have a let's see. We have the whips, and then we have the SpellBroke whip here for this comic. If you do want to explore this entire thread, which is how we built this step by step, you're going to see all of it illustrated. It was such a big help to have I Troll For You come in and solve a major problem that I had building this comic. And this all is relevant to what we're doing next, so I will explain this really quick, which is I had trouble getting Brecky to be inside of Vic's hand, getting squeezed, because I wanted to do this gag. I wanted to do the gag of the squeeze toys with the eyes pop out real big. And I was like, maybe we could use this image of King Kong and try to get her in there. And what ended up being the solution was combining multiple AIs to make this to work. So we used 4.0 in order to get her in a couple different positions inside of the hand, and then those results were brought into Midjourney for a Niji retexture. So the retexturing was done using some of our previous profiles and codes that we've built, and look at how good it did at converting the frankly really stereotypical ChatGPT look on this stuff here to making it look like our series with Midjourney. And the second to last result is the one I ended up using because it really gave the whole like bubbly boobly sort of head shape kind of bouncing around there. I love that. It's so freaking funny to me, and I emphasized on that. And we took this panel here, and then I cleaned it all up, and you can see we continue to explore it a little bit in terms of other options of how to get her in the hand. Maybe Vic puts her down instead of embraces her as she falls. These would have been all fun results if that was the intention, but I ended up just going the direction I went and composited the hand into there. So what I'm going to do, though, is I have included a couple of panels that I wanted to build up this frame here. Oh, thank you so much. Later I troll for you. And again, thank you so much for helping us out with this comic. But you can see here that I've included one result here of her running towards a fantasy city. And I am so down to basically use this as the guiding like reference for getting her to be falling down the hill, at least to trip on a rock or something like that. I have a couple different panels of her running frantically that I've gotten by using the previous comic as a style reference like we did for the entire stream here today. So these results are all really good. But what I want to do is I want to see if I can get this image to combine with the actual city and see if we can get them to replicate, or at least to have it be represented inside of here. So I'm going to use this as a image prompt inside of the fantasy room here. First, I'll just paste this. I'm going to leave it as an image prompt. And then I'm going to take from my Photoshop file here, I am going to take the castle right here, and I'm just going to take a snippet of this castle, like something like this here. Copy this, and then I am going to hop us back over to the Fantasy Friday room and paste this as the Omni reference. There we go. And let's go ahead and describe this scene really quick. We could also use /describe to kind of get us there a little faster in terms of the words that we want to use. We could always reference it that way. But I am going to now take the comic that we had earlier, because we've gotten really good results with it so far, and use that as the style reference. So this is our in terms of the image prompts, this is the starting formula that I have. The reference being for the castle, so we could hopefully see that represented exactly as it is inside of the shot. We have the composition of her running towards the castle, as well as a style reference that includes the aesthetic that we're aiming for here. We might need to swap out the style reference to be one of later in the comic because there's more daylight, it's more open. But this is what I used to build this. So the transition from dark to light is what I'm mostly aiming for here, as well as her being on a tall hilltop. So let's now, I am going to open up my Midjourney account here, and let's find this image here, the original result of this image, because I will basically be copying the prompt from that. So let's search for, in my account, I know it's not going to show up on your screen here, but I'm going to search for castle, and I already have, I already pulled it up. That's all it took was searching the word castle. So let's paste this prompt into here now. I see that I had set the style weight to 450, the aspect ratio to 3:2, the omni weight to 250, and version 7. And the image prompt, I had it as 2.2, but let's do a variation on the image prompt. So let's do IW and then set that as a parameter. And I'm going to set that to a couple different values here. 0.3, 0.8, 1.2, 1.8, and 2.2. Just giving us a big range there. Because I'm curious just how much we're able to say, hey, obscure this castle with this. But we have an animated fantasy film, a frog girl in a frog poncho, a girl in a frog poncho running down a dirt path leading to a castle in the distance that's surrounded by a tightly packed peasant village. That's the prompt. And now I'm going to hit submit on this. And because we have so many permutations of there, it's going to run 5 different renders at the same time. That gives us a total of 20 images for us to sort through to get started here. So let's see what we get off of these. And thank you guys so much for joining today. I know that today's a little bit of a quieter day, but I am so happy to have each one of you guys hanging out here and making stuff with us. I see a couple new faces here too, so thank you so much for joining. I'm so curious to see if we are able to at least get us a good starting image, and then I can show you guys how I expanded the castle to look the way it does. Because I did it in a pretty fun way. I just want to see what we get off right off the bat with this. So let's see. The order of the image prompts, because they tend to lengthen the render time a little differently. Let's see we'll see which number kind of pleases us the most in terms of the size here. I like this one a lot. We could easily extend the castle height with this one. She looks like she's pretty tired in this one. Oh my god, look how big the castle is already with this one, but she's really tiny in this. So we might want a variation subtle this one. Let's see here. The frog. I'm seeing some stuff from my troll for you. He said, I've been fighting with the editor all evening, and these are only good results that I got.
Those are good results.
Those are good results. I do like it. Yeah, we didn't do any of the composition of this scene yet, so it does a lot of fun with the editor though. Okay, cool. All right, so let's take a look and see if any other of these kind of ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I mostly just like this. That's fun. Yes, but we're not getting that darkness that I was hoping for earlier. So let's see here. We might need to include that in the prompt. Ooh. We actually have the overhang of the castle ledge here. This is... So I want to eventually blow up the top half of Phantasma and have it be like the city separate, like the castle breaks off from itself at one point. I want to do that at some point. I just love the idea of floating castles. And we do have a setup for the city already being a floating castle as part of the lore for it. So it would be cool to just kind of do a lot of like large scale destruction with that. So we have 2 results that I like. I'm going to do a variation subtle on this one and on this one and on this one, just because we got 3 decent compositions off of those. And then we will see if we got any sort of upgrade on our quality from that. If the castle is if everything looks good but the castle's a little too short or something like that, Then what I'm gonna do is do the same castle like height extension that I did for like the original one. Basically, like let's just force it to look the way that we want it to. So let's take a look at all 4 of these results. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. I do like it. She needs to be a little more desperate in her run though. These look so good. Okay, this is awesome. This is awesome. We definitely have more of a vineyard like effect with the fencing. So like with my intention in mind, unless I in paint all of these fences out of it, I want her to fall off of it, right? And I probably need to describe the path as being a little more rugged. But if we kind of cycle through these really quick, we can kind of find one that really sells the like I think it's actually going to end up being this one with the fencing. So let me try this. Let me try this. We have a good combination here. Image weight 0.8. So let me go ahead and hit use on here. We could adjust the omni weight. There's a lot of different directions we could go here. But what I'm mostly curious about is maybe we could describe the path as being more rugged. It's in a dirt in a haphazard or hazardous dirt path filled with rocks, full of rocks, leading to the castle. I'm curious if this is enough to get us the because a hazardous path doesn't include safety railings or fencing. You know what I mean? So that's my logic for trying to break us away from that. So let's see what we get off of this. And we might need to describe it as being like a steep downhill dirt path or something like that. I mostly want the city to be partially obscured but recognizable. And I really like the second result that we're already getting here because it is partially obscured by the trees. So like just to kind of hide how big the city is around it. But let's take a look at these 4 results here. 1. This is perfect. Yes. Yes, this is awesome. This one's great. And the reason why it's great is because it obscures just the amount that I want. I want to obscure enough of the village to where I could see it, but still recognize that it's a path that's there's no safety element to the path she's taking. And it could be that this hill is a lot steeper than it looks. There's even a little fencing here. So like, yes, all these results are good. I'll probably end up using both of these, and then we'll do the extension that I did earlier so you guys can see that. So let's go ahead and do a variation on this one, and especially on this one. And I'm curious if we can just boost the quality with that by just running through variations and pick one with a better line art. If you guys get any questions, feel free to use VC Text to chat with us. You're going to see plenty of people sending cool things, chatting about stuff inside of the chat, inside of the fantasy room too. But VC text is what shows up on stream here. So you might see a couple of things pop up here, but the text is significantly smaller with the chat that's over here. Sorry if I don't catch what you guys talk about in here. There's just so much going on. All right, let's take.
I have an eye on the chat.
Oh, okay, cool. Let's take a look at our variation subtles here. Very cool. I think this one actually has a lot of potential. Yes. Look at. Okay. I'm getting a little too excited with these. So we're definitely going to have to in-paint Brecky at a few of these and run a couple of the upscale creatives to get us the final like line art on this. But this I like a lot. We do see a little bit of the city. We see enough of the castle to go, yes, that's the castle. And I'm gonna say send it on this one here. So when we find one we do like, it's really dramatic what upscale creative can do when it comes to fixing any sort of little issues and stuff we might have. So I'm first going to do that. Upscale creative, and I'm actually going to run 4 of them. And we're going to take a look at all 4 of them and compare the results there. Because as good as some of the results that we get off of just like the raw stuff here, it does make a lot of sense to go, hey, let's see what the creative can do to clean up any kind of odd line art decisions that get made. So let's take a look. And it's also true, by the way, that Brecky's scale here is heavily influencing how tiny she is. In a lot of these results, I'm seeing Fungi Mancer here has a couple of fun ones. And he messed with the Omni weight a bit. That's good. He lowered the style weight. Good. And you can see the castle's getting better represented with that. So that's awesome. We might be able to use these. In fact, I will go ahead and also... it's a little flat though. That's my only concern with this is it looks better. Like let's just go ahead and upscale. We'll do a creative on this one as well. Okay. As this is finishing up here, we'll be able to take a really good look at what exactly this is going to do, because I find myself using upscale creative a lot more since omni-referencing came out. Especially if you get kind of frustrated with the art that you get and you're like, look, it's like everything's there. It's just everything feels a little off. There's something wrong with it. 9 times out of 10, an upscale creative will fix it. If not, I can make it work. But let's take a look and see what we got here. Oh, okay, yes. We're mostly looking at details like how good the line art looks throughout this. See how bad this one is, but this one is so much better for Brecky. That's good. But let's take a look at the city. I feel like the actual castle will be a good determiner for which one of these we end up using. So that one already immediately better in terms of how fleshed out the castle is, but this is the one where she looked worse. Okay, let's take a look at some of the other ones here. That one's really good. That one's really good because we can clean up some minor details with the spires here, and we have the colors all preserved there. We have some tall walls for the castle. I like that a lot. And she looks pretty darn good in this one here. And we'll probably get rid of this bonus panel thing here. So I'm going to hit copy on this. And we're going to look at the other ones here in a second, but I'm going to show you guys what I do when I'm kind of collecting images here, because I don't use any sort of the save functions. I don't like save imagery in folders or anything like that. I just make new projects for it. So I will come in here, I'll hit new in Photoshop, and just submit this. There you go. Are you looking at some awesome results or something?
I'm just dying in cuteness. I got this amazing Omni reference for Apprentice Roxy, like when she was very young.
Uh-huh.
And I'm just making her climbing shelves with potions on it because she wants to get to the top, and it's just so cute.
Awesome. Yeah, and I can guarantee you that like yes. Oh. Yeah, little kid Roxy is so cute. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I love it. The climbing on shelves is also especially kid-like and cute. But I want to take from Fungi Mancer here. We'll also take a closer look at the castle with this one here. Let's see which one. You could see just how much the line art looks bad with certain renders, right? But then you'll get good parts of it. Like I really like the rocky mountain side that leads up to the side of the castle here. But the buildings, all the neighborhood looks awful. Like it's all messy. But if we just scroll through, this one's already significantly better. We could clean up minor parts of this and it'll look better. It's still messy right here. Still messy. Yeah, I would probably end up running this 2 or 3 times, but this one has already gotten us so much closer just by running it 2 or 3 times. Like compare this result with this result right here. Like it's in terms of the castle is like so much better right off the bat. Okay. Like I like this one actually. I like this one because we do see the entrance of the castle here. It's a little distorted, but it'll work. So let's just copy that and also keep that in our project. Oops, I didn't realize I didn't switch cameras. My bad. Oop, there we go. This is the one here. So look at the different castle quality here. Yeah, I'm mostly looking at the town around the castle, but this just shows you how dramatic upscale creative is. Okay. At this point, let's see what we got here. We have a couple of fun ones of her running. This is my main creation folder here. So let's go back to our Fantasy Friday room. Is she going to Disney? It almost looks like Disney at a point. There you go. Okay. All right. Ooh. What did you guys do here? I see this. Who made this one? Also Fungi Mancer. Okay. So, I will oftentimes just take from results that I like. Like if I like the background of one of these and that's the one that I'm going to use, like that, I will remove the character and replace it. It does screw with like directions of light, particularly. It's the one thing that really bothers me is I have to be considerate of that pretty often. But whatever one kind of fits the bill here, this one looks amazing, actually. I will upscale this one as well. Again, I'm doing that 3 times here, or 4 times to give us plenty of options for which one has the best line art at the end of it. And I'm using creative just because I know what the subtle result is. The subtle is going to be a very it's like, in terms of if I rendered 4 subtle, upscale subtle results, they're going to just be slightly different in gradient and not really much else. The line art will be preserved. So in the goal of cleaning up line art, upscale creative really does the job for us there. So we'll let that. Yeah, she's in Disney. Look at her being Disney. There you go. She's in California, whatever the California land is called. Let's see. Nixie was applying a profile to it. And again, like and I see multiple comic panels in there too, and that's cool. The main thing is that as soon as you incorporate profiles, it's amazing how much it breaks things. In terms of like the at least for trying to get the references to align with each other. Look at how broken the castle is. Look at how Bricky is nowhere near the age she was before compared to all the other results we had. I think that's the profile.
Bricky aged like 30 years.
Yeah, 30 years. That's how long it took for her to get back. Yeah, it is certainly true that I'm just really trying to emphasize to you guys that when it comes to profiles, like, it's really hard to make it consistent in a workflow for that. So let's take a look at the castle here. This is so good. This is so good. It did such a good job recreating the castle I built in Photoshop. My God, that looks so good. Let's take a look at... I'm just trying to pick which one would be best here.
I like the white one best because it has a clear distinction between sides and it's consistent on that.
This one here? I think it's this one that you're talking about.
Yeah,
okay.
It's this one.
Perfect. So I'm going to copy that because that gives us the clearest shot of the city of Phantasma. It's kind of funny. Like, I was criticized when I was first making the fantasy series that the actual construction of it is very, very plain medieval. Like, there's not a lot of like fanciful, like, you're not going to get the Shire out of our little fantasy city, like, in terms of the ornateness of, like, all the doors are round and all the windows are portholes and, like, we're aiming more for almost like a Spanish villa in terms of, like, the building construction and architecture, and it's not with intention. It's just that's the results that we're getting off of these images. And so the thing is that I do feel like it kind of feels like a massive industrial prison complex, which is good for what the story we're aiming for with the gnomes. But it's meant to feel like, like how you see some like Eastern European, Russian inspired, like densely populated brutalist building structures. I could see that be employed here, where there's large sheets of like of housing to take care of an overpopulated city that centers around its economy with magic. These are all themes that we're aiming for. None of it's like hard lock canon. It's just stuff that we like to talk about inside of our server. So I'll keep exploring this, but we've copied that over, and I've brought these 3 images into a Photoshop project here. And the key thing with this is that now that we have these 3 results here, we could start making some decisions and really guide the shot itself to be her falling from this moment. We basically just take one of these results and start to manipulate the active falling inside of the prompt. And I'll tell you now, if you tell a character to jump, it works, but I love spontaneous levitation. You see, I used that a ton in my comic here this week, or sorry, last week. And we're gonna basically now combine these to make her falling from this hillside. So let's give that a go.
Free falling is also a good one.
What is it?
Free falling.
Oh, free falling. That's yeah. I really should diversify my action prompts because I do find myself being kind of lazy with it and sticking to one thing. But if we try, so like let me yeah, go ahead.
I've been using draft mode here and there to just describe prompts in other ways,
Ooh.
just to harness that.
Yeah, I think it's totally a fun use of draft mode. I really should play with it more. I haven't done it enough.
Yeah. It was so amazing when it came out, and then we never mentioned
Well, I think just with all the other developments and stuff, it's understandable that a lower quality draft mode wouldn't be the highlight of everyone's day. But it is a great way to prompt craft, that's for sure. So what I'm going to do is I've included this as an image prompt, and I'm going to get rid of the Omni reference of Flora here, as well as the Disney prompt here. So let's do. I could do multiple comic panels in order to get us some image prompts to work with, but I'm gonna try to get this all in one go here. Let's say that, in fact, I do have from my previous prompts, if I go to create here, I should be able to find her falling off of this and see what prompt I used for that. So we'll say that this is a castle in my searches. Castle. And I will see where I have her falling from that. So maybe we'll do this. Spontaneous. And you can see that's how I was able to get her like floating up and whatnot. But let's see. No, not these. I'll do castle as well. No. Okay. We'll find it. We'll find it. There we go. Couple of fun ones being thrown around here. This was actually last week when Drolinak was having her slide behind Drolinak as she's falling. We might still include that. It is a pretty fun idea. But I need to find the ones where she is. I'll just do this. I'll just recreate it from scratch. Fantasy Friday. There we go. We're going to say that there is a green hair girl in a frog poncho spontaneously levitating over a rough dirt trail with many rocks. A forest is behind. We won't describe the scene. I'm gonna build out these references of her here. So in our project here, I'm going to open up Photoshop one more time to get some images here. Inside of our project here, we also have the scene of her falling. So let me grab that really quick. That would be page 2. Letting that load. That's one of the bigger pages. I think this one's like almost 2 gigs. There we go. And so I want to take this moment here. This is going to be the next panel. So I don't want to have 2 references of her necessarily. I want to make sure that I have her. And you can see why these projects get so big. It's just because I can select anywhere in here, grab her, and there she is, right? And if I then go underneath this and see the nested layer there, I'll see the version I did before color correction and so on and so forth. So that's why these projects are so big. But what I'm going to do is I need to kind of capture this whole moment here without necessarily using both of her. So I'm just going to mute this, Mute this. I'm basically just getting rid of some excess here of what happens a little later in this panel because I don't want to see these elements recreated, but I do want to see her falling into this moment. So let me just get rid of all these little details here. This one little one I got to get rid of here. Come on. Where are you? There you go. Nope, not that. Come on. It's going to make me zoom in even more. There we go. Get rid of this. And then we have a little bit of a motion blur that I applied here. Get rid of that. Now this is good. And we'll get rid of this arbitrary bonk thing here. I just mute everything and then I don't save my projects out whenever I'm doing this kind of thing. I'm just getting rid of the stuff I know is going to confuse Midjourney for our intentions. So getting rid of all these speed lines and of this stress bubbles and her eyes here. There we go. All right, now we have this set up here. I am going to collapse this all as one layer in order to copy it. Okay, copy. And I'm not going to worry about the edge. I'm just going to grab inside the frame here. There we go. Copy this. All right. Bring us back now to Midjourney. And I'm going to use this as the Omni reference. Okay, it says the file is too big already. So let me go new, export this. In fact, this is a kind of a hacky way to do it. But I'll go inside of any Discord server and just paste an image and then use that as a link. Whenever it says, oh, your file is over 10 megs or whatever, like this one, it says it's 15 megs. Jesus. It's 15 megs because I did a panel expansion in Photoshop beta. I am just going to link it inside of a Discord server, so I'll use the link instead of uploading directly to Midjourney's website. So now that we have this link, I can come into the fantasy room here, hit paste, and I'm going to drag that image to the Omni reference because I'm going to try to get her to be completely, like at least in this scene, to be already tumbling, already in the air, rolling around. So a green-haired girl in a frog poncho spontaneously levitates over a rough dirt road with many rocks. And then I'm going to hit the aspect ratio to 3:2. We'll keep raw on because I do like the results of raw when I composite comics together. And version 7. And then the Omni weight, I'm setting to 250 to start. Let's see what we get off of this. Let's see if we get enough of this. If not, we're going to use an Omni reference of Brecky by herself instead of doing this where we are trying to pull as much information from the scene in order to kind of skip that step. Because right now we have basically a 3-step process of first you use your character sheet to put them in an environment and to create image prompts for you to then guide the story that you're doing later. Or you can just pull from your finished comics and continue them with omnireferencing, and it's already doing a pretty good job from what I can tell here. We might have to recomposite the castle to be inside of it, but we'll see what we get off of this here. All right. Hold on. So we will definitely be in painting a bit here to get this to be how I kind of envision it here. We need to bump up the image weight a lot, I feel like, and we probably need to reference the castle. So let's go ahead and first let me set the image weight to 2.2. Now image weights can kind of make things murky when you bump up the value too high, but we'll see how this one does. And then also, I'm curious if I can now pull in an image of Brecky that we had before from you guys. What did you guys use here before? I just want to kind of scroll through here really quick. Yeah, we didn't have any, so we'll borrow one from the character portal. Flora jumping over the red dragon's awesome. Okay. Oh, look at this. It recreated the speed lines that she has here. That's fun, but it's not really matching my intention nearly as much, but she is certainly floating around here. Yeah, I think we got to go a little bit of a different direction here. All right. Let me do this then. I'm going. Go ahead.
Tumbling up?
Sorry. One more time.
Is she tumbling up?
She's tumbling up. Yes, that's exactly what she's doing. For those that don't know, my other series is called Tumbling Up, my Sage and Michael comics. Okay. So what I want to do here is we should probably try to emphasize on the moment that actually causes her to trip, and then we can kind of pull back on that moment, as well as use the other images that we had here. So let's see. I have all these images here. It'll oftentimes generate a frog-like character for her to be nearby. So we're going to use one of these instead as the Omni reference because we see her so much more clearly in these. I think this one works well. This one should work really well actually. So let's copy this one over. Copy image address, and then I'll hit use. Paste this in there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch this. What we had as the Omni reference before is now going to be the style reference, and I'm going to hit this as the Omni reference. The reason being is the issues I'm seeing the most is that Brecky is not really realized in any of these. She's there, but she's not. Like we're definitely I would hope that she would be more floating off to the side somewhere, but I think I got to lower the image weight as well because look how forced she is to always be above the road, which is what's inside of the image prompt here. So let's do one where we drop the image prompt really low to like 0.3, and then another one where we just get rid of the image prompt entirely because I think it's constraining too much for what we want to do. This is what the multi-limbed Brecky reminded me of. Batman. Yeah, no, I love this animation so much. It's so good. Okay. Let's see. Okay, with the image weight set to 2.2, we actually got pretty damn close. Like, this is really awesome. This is really cool. I wanted her to be running near the edge of something like this. Yes, that's good. But let's see what we get off of these results here. Yeah. Okay, this is awesome. So this is her excitedly running. It's because in the Omni reference, she doesn't necessarily look upset necessarily. We're going to have to just describe her as that. But we immediately get a much more haphazard path, which is what I'm looking for. I want to see all this debris in space. As the rain from the forest is definitely overlapping some of this. But let's now embellish on this because these results here I'm liking a lot. This one, yes, we'll use the ones. Let's see, with or without the image reference. They're about the same, honestly, because the image weight is so low. I'm going to use it without. So we'll hit use, and then we'll see. And then we're going to describe this as seen from the back of her. Let's reword that. We watch the back of a girl in a frog, because understand the back of her head is just going to be the frog poncho. We don't really need to describe her hair unless her hair is kind of, the intention is that her hair would pop out of the sides of the poncho. The reality is if we start describing her hair, it's far more likely to put her face in the shot when I want her running away from camera. So you watch the back of a girl in a frog poncho, spontaneously levitating. So I'm going to say, we'll just do that. We could say that she's running away from camera. That's a really good one. I love that prompt. Running away from camera is kind of similar to the, putting on the sunglasses and walking away from the explosion kind of shot. But we should be pretty darn good off of this prompt here to basically describe her direction of movement in order to get us something that's a little closer to the composition I imagine. What did he do here? An old wizard in the wizard tower to castle. He has both arms out, the wizard casting magic with his fingers. Yeah, I dig that. That's awesome. Love that. Okay, cool. Enid just hanging out with her dragon. Okay.
The only reason why the Phantasma Castle is looking different in all of the images from comic to comic is because every wizard is appointed to have one tower, and every time one like gets there, they just build it there and slap it onto the castle somewhere,
Yeah.
and then they just redecorate it now and then.
Yes. Yeah.
It's
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 good.
just lore I just made up, but
I mean, it's true though that we wanted the world, and this is actually in the description, like that we have for the story, is that that it's a fast paced, ever changing fantasy world. As in, there's things that are happening to where the gnomes are basically a slave race to the wizards, and the problem is one of the reasons they don't revolt and they don't like take over, because they certainly have the numbers to do it. It is the fact that they're complacent due to the sheer chaos of the magical world that they live in. There's like every day there is some new crazy thing that's happening because a wizard got an idea. That it makes it this kind of like what I wanted to parallel was just how burnt out we feel when it comes to being in the world we live in today. Like all the news of the world can be so overwhelming to get fed into our brains from our phones and whatnot, that it can make us feel powerless. It can make us feel that it's pointless to speak out or to be an activist or to do anything really, because there's just so much going on in the world. I wanted that similar feeling for the gnomes, that they're like, maybe they did try a revolt like 30, 40 years after the starting of the wizard takeover, but they became complacent because every day is a new earth-shattering change in the world, and paralleling that with the modern reality is what I wanted to aim for with one of the aspects of the series. So I feel this is so deep. You need to connect with people. You need to connect on a real human level with, and that's why parallels and homages and things like that, like they have the intention of making it have a message of some sort, right? And it's just important to know what that message is. And for me, that message comes down to, we can change the world and make it a better place, but it's going to take a monumental effort. We're going to be moving mountains and castles in order to do it. So I hope you guys join me for the rest of that, because it's going to be a lot of fun where we go. But here, I wanted to show this though. With the prompt, we watched the back of a girl in a frog poncho spontaneously levitating over a dirt road with many rocks. We now see the backside of her. That's not what we had before, which is great. We want her to be running out of a dark forest, so that'll be the next thing that I adjust for the prompt, but this already is so much closer to what I wanted. I wanted this sort of overhanging hillside that is a bit perilous, a little wet. Perfect. Okay. So now I'll just describe this with use and then say, we watched the back of a frog levitating in dark. Okay. So we say like, we watched the back of a girl leaving a dark forest out into an open field. She is wearing a frog poncho, and we'll just go with that. We'll see if we're able to evoke that there's a dark, like forest that she's emerging out of, while preserving the fact that we're trying to focus on the back of her as she's leaving this space. Because describing the time of day, describing the lighting especially, sets the tone. It sets the mood for everything you're going to do. Almost everything that I see you guys prompting is like at anywhere between noon and 3 p.m. If you ask for sunset, sunrise, magic hour, that kind of stuff, you're going to get way more diversity of the emotional impact of what you're prompting for. It's just a byproduct of the references we use tend to be middle of the day, well lit, that kind of stuff. Immediately when you try to bring this stuff in the darkness with version 6.1, the styles would change, because the rules for color tone and color temperature change depending on the time of day. With omni-reference, it's way better at recontextualizing day for night and things like that. So let's take a look at the dark forest prompt here. Yes. Okay, we're a little closer. Not exactly where I want to be, but we are definitely closer. Let's try to bring back the image prompt a little bit. So let me come back into here, because we got a really good shading off of that. So let's do this here. There. No, not that one. Where is... Aha, it's in my Photoshop file. That's right. Let's grab it from here. This one here. This is what I wanted to capture, was this darkness that's here. So copy this and then paste this as the image prompt. Get rid of this one. And I'll hit submit on this for now. And we can maybe mess around with some image weights and stuff here. But this is essentially how I stitch together the comic, is I am using previous panels, images that are close to what I wanted but weren't there. And as well as just kind of fudging certain elements. I do want to show one thing, which is how we can essentially do like large expansions of like structure and castles. So I'm going to do that next, and that will probably be where I end the stream for today. And we do a little after the show announcement here. But look at this. This is already so much better. I'm loving this a lot, actually. She's almost looking like she's about to trip with this one here. We just need to put a rock in front of her, and we got it. Flora being wacky. But yes, this is so much better. We can definitely work with any one of these here. And she's fully realized, too. Like, there's no error with her design here. So that's awesome. Okay, I like this one a lot. Okay, so I'm gonna save this for later. I'm not gonna force you guys to sit through all that of me constructing the panels like to a certain detail. But let me do this. Let me do this though. I do want to explain how we can make things like exaggerate the shapes of things with using in-painting only. So a lot of these results, the castles are pretty normal looking castles. Like the heights of them are pretty normal looking. But let's say we wanted to make one of these results the super gigantic towers that we have from Phantasma. So let me grab one of these here. Let's do this one here. We'll just do this one. So I'm going to upscale this one. And what we're going to do is we're going to do essentially layer the same project on itself and then do a smart selection to only preserve one of the buildings in order to in-paint the remaining parts of it. So while that's rendering, I'll show you guys what I did on the comic. I have it split up here for you guys. There you go. Let's take a closer look at what I did here. So I took the original result of this castle, which is a much more like realistically scaled castle to the buildings that are around it. But we're doing a fantasy series. We're doing something wild. We're doing something big. Like, you got to think big, right? That was one of the things Rhapsody told me when I showed her the first draft of the comic series. Was this world needs to be bigger. We can do anything. So show off the fact that we could do it. And I was like, this is such good advice. Like, it's so good. It's so good, actually. I was like, yes. We got to go back and redo things because we can. You were so right about the scale of stuff. We really need to emphasize that things can be massive, super massive, even.
And it's not. It wasn't even only about the scale of stuff. It was just about the vastness of the world and the size of the story itself. Like it felt back then like it was trying to break out of a little small shell, and that wasn't just gonna do it. Like,
right. Well, I wanted to emphasize how small Gnome was, and it felt claustrophobic because of that. And the problem is like I really needed to show off how big the world was first before I could show how small she is inside of that world. There's a couple of different ways we could approach that, but I just really appreciated the tip on that. So. Scaling up, that's kind of what we did here. What we did is we took the building, we dragged it up into the center of the sky as if it's a floating castle, and then I in-painted the area between the two copies of the castle so that we effectively say, hey, make this go all the way up to here. And then after some color correction and fiddling, we get the final castle. Okay? So if we do that really quickly within Midjourney, let's grab our, wow. Okay. Yes. This is some high production stuff from, Nixie here. That's awesome. I'll have to dig through all these guys. I'll be digging on my own time through a lot of these here. But what I want to see is, where's that result that I had that I rendered? There we go. Okay. So we have this result here. Okay. Not the best result, but it'll work for what we want to do. I'm going to go to edit here. It puts us in the external editor. And I am actually going to scale this up first. Like I'm going to make this taller so that we can effectively fill this area here. And then I am even going to go back into Midjourney here. And I'm going to grab this image as a link. So let's see here. Where is it? I get easily thrown off by this interview. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to copy, right click it and hit copy image URL and go back to my editor and hit add layer on the bottom left corner. I'm going to hit from URL. This is the exact same image. Okay. It is now buckled over itself. It's like we have two versions of the same image on top of itself. We're going to use the smart selection tool here. And we are just going to include this castle. We're going to just start selecting parts of the castle here. The smart selection layers tool, guys, is just, it's awesome. It is what I've been waiting for so long for Midjourney to support, which is having a smart object selection. So now we're going to hit erase background, which will erase everything that's not selected here. Okay. And now we have a standalone version of this castle sitting up here. So let's now drag this to the top. Something like this. The only thing we have to do is with our eye, manually line up these. If you need to use like a ruler on your screen, then do it. But that's a pretty good guess. I think that's pretty decent. And if we wanted to sell the scale, because if we pull something up like this, we probably want to set the scale to be a little smaller because it's going out into the distance. I'm only going to scale it down by a little bit. And I'm just going to make sure our perspective lines match up. So this line from light to dark matches here. Okay. Now I will go into our painting tool and I'll remove the little buildings that are down here. And then I'll switch to layer 2 and now remove the tops of these buildings leading up to this. Okay. But bam. And so with layer 1, I just get rid of these two little trees that are here. There we go. Now, okay, we have that. And now inside of this prompt, I'm going to say that this is a supermassive castle tower spire looming in the background. Just something to say that it's back there. Supermassive castle tower spire looming in the background. Bah, 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 bah. Get rid of the image prompt because the image prompt is going to distort what we have, so I don't want to use that. We don't have an image weight, and we're using, even though it's technically version 6.1, you can write version 7 in here, it'll still work. But now we're essentially saying, hey, fill in everything that's here, everything that's checker patterned. If you're familiar with Photoshop, you know this checker pattern well. Fill in all of the alpha channel with what I've described here. So let's hit submit on that. And let's see if we get our super tall spiring castle. The reason why this works is because we are relying on the color palette to recreate and extend these scenes. If we just put two random castles with each other, it'll most likely merge it in weird ways. And so we're relying heavily on the fact that that both of these images have castles or have the same color tone, and we can kind of match up the shadows and stuff. Look at that. Already, off of these 4 results here, we could start to imagine what the rest of this castle is going to look like, okay? So let's now take this one. I'm going off of the first results. I heavily recommend just re-rolling like crazy until you're happy with it. But now what we can do is we could just kind of come into here, and I'll take out this one here. Let's put some over here. Yeah, let's do this. Let's just get them all over here. And say supermassive castle with many towering spires looming in the distance. And I'll make it even taller. I'll make it like come up to here. Okay. Yeah, this could be fun. Get rid of this, that, and that. There we go. Let's see what we get off of that. And we could also run this with Niji, but this starts to confuse a lot of people really fast. So I'm just going to hit Niji 6. We can render with anything, with any previous version that allows indenting. So we'll just take a look at what we get off of these, and oh my god, already we got more of a cathedral-like look off of this. That's really cool. Very, very useful to use the layers function in order to build up unique architecture, unique structures. Like, this is really cool right off the bat. I love the symmetry between these towers here, to where now I can just kind of come into here and even make a whole new spire out of this. So like if we just come into here, something like that, okay? If I need to, I can always extend this back out and do the same process I did before by copying the layer or the image before and then repeating that process from before. But this is great. This should do wonders for us to be able to make all sorts of unique architecture. And this is how I built the Phantasma Castle. So I hope you guys utilize the layers function in the editor, because it's super handy for this particular sort of in-painting job. Yeah, you can see that as soon as we lose that top part, we don't get the height anymore, because we're not giving it a constraint of, I need you to build it up to this height, right? But it gets us cool stuff like this that we could then build on top of. So, all right, guys, I want you guys to please join the show after the show. We have a very fun place where you can come in and join the voice chat and hang out with us. It is linked inside of VC Text for you guys. You can find that over in the Midjourney, just above the Midjourney stage here. VC Text, you'll find links for the Gnarly Studio server. Come on in. We would love to have you. And thank you so much to Rhapsody for co-hosting with me today.
I was a bit quiet today, but I'm very exhausted. I might not even stick around long in the show after the show today, but I was very happy to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, and
oh my god, all these amazing Roxy images that Lolo Soon has been making, and others too. There was a lot of good stuff today, and it made me very happy.
Yeah, I'll be so excited to actually dig through this stuff and use it, because we're going to end up using this for a lot of the fantasy series stuff. It's nice to have it all in a room too, so that we can deep dive into all this stuff. And thank you so much for Kinky for being here to co-host with us as well, and give us a place, a venue to do it. So thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, and I hope to see you guys over at the Gnarly Studios server. You all have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.